Hi everyone, Rachel Boucher here, Head of Content at Event Marketer, coming to you live from our Marketing Innovators Studio on the show floor at CES. Event Marketer is thrilled to be an official media partner of CES, and together with our sister brands across the Chief Marketer Network, we are here all week capturing conversations and content. There is no more timely topic than AI and no better place to discuss it than here at CES. Today we're digging into harnessing AI for more human brand experiences, from AI-enhanced experiential marketing to leaning into audience psychology and behaviors to creating live experiences that stick and more. I'm thrilled to have with me some AI experts from Zarnowski Collective, a leading global agency network known for award-winning exhibits, events, and experiences. John-Eric Amundsen is the company's Executive Creative Director. Welcome, John-Eric. Kyrie Davis is our Senior Strategist at Zarnowski, and Margaret Shaw is Senior Experience Strategist. Thank you all for being here. All right, let's dig into it. John-Eric, I'm going to start with you. How do you strike the right balance between leveraging AI-driven technology and creating human-centered experiences? And I think we're seeing this kind of conversation play out here across the show floor, but what's your take on that?
I think it's important to understand the appropriate lanes. So artificial intelligence is really good at taking massive data sets and helping us build predictions around that data. And human experiences in themselves are honored, and we should really protect that lane that's kind of been infringed on. So if you can understand the role of those two things and keep those separate lanes, ideally they don't compete. If you think about online dating, for example, hypothetically or in theory, the more data that we have and that ability to better understand who might be a perfect match, that ultimately should lead up to still a physical date, right? It's not really replacing that. The hope would be that we have more information to align a great experience, and then we still create space for that human magic to happen, right? I still want that spark. I still want that unexpected. And so hypothetically, that should happen. But the reason why I bring up that example is because we know in practice that's not always the case, right? So we also want to make sure that we don't get caught sort of overfitting and trying to solve humans like a mathematical problem. Let the AI give us more information. We do our best to better predict what that human experience is, but still really honor the classic elements of that human and psychological experience to let those sort of unexpected moments arise.
It's a good analogy. Margaret, I want to turn to you. How has AI changed the way you analyze audience psychology and behaviors when planning experiential marketing campaigns?
When it comes to research and audience insights, it's absolutely transforming the way we think about it. Not only from enhancing the traditional research methods that we have, but also offering avenues for new ways to learn about audiences. On the enhancement side, you have quantitative data. It can help you sort through that faster, or it can help you plan the survey and research instruments that you're using. On a qualitative side, that's really where I am so excited about the potential for it, because it, as a language model, understands human speech and behavior. One tool that we use when we're doing audience interviews, for instance, is actually a meeting transcription tool called Otter. It transcribes, we love it. It transcribes, it summarizes, and you can even ask it questions about what occurred in the conversation, and it can help you really organize and efficiently collect audience research. And then from the new avenue perspective, AI gives you the ability to essentially create a composite persona. Imagine being able to speak to one person that represents the aggregate of your audience. Things like ChatGPT, my first love, and then also specialized tools like Consensus AI, which is based on academic papers, can pull together a really robust, comprehensive picture of your audience in a conversational way that can really enhance and augment your thinking.
Yeah, it seems like the tools too are very, we've kind of tested and played with them over the last year, and I feel like marketers are really ready to dig in and like use them to their fullest potential.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Kyrie, I'm going to turn to you. There's that shift away from one-size-fits-all experiences. We've talked a lot about that with our interview subjects over the last couple of years. What strategic frameworks should brands leverage to ensure personalized engagement?
I love that, and I think we first have to just acknowledge what the last 5 years have been. We were heavily face-to-face, we went to virtual, we had a slight amount of time in hybrid, and now we're seeing face-to-face numbers skyrocket again. And as we think about personalization, I think we just have to think about it as flexibility and adapting to like the evolving needs of an audience. And honestly, that's just a challenge with endless possibilities. And when we're giving AI a framework, we have to remember 4 things. We control the rules that we give it, right? The information to consider, the decision logic, and then also the outcomes that we're ultimately trying to aim to achieve. So some of the frameworks I'm using right now is just nested identity. I know you were talking about, marketers are looking to dig in, and I think nested identity is a great framework to work with, and that's helping me just explore, the varying context of what an audience is looking for in an experience, and exactly how we have to create an experience that resonates across personal, professional, communal, and also cultural context. And I'm also using tools like Claude AI to dive into a framework that I pulled from the book A Beautiful Constraint, and that's really just a workshop propelling questions that break the mold and help us, bring really impactful work that breaks the status quo. And then lastly, this is probably my favorite, is just interdisciplinary research and just cross-pollination. I'm using tools like ResearchRabbit. I will consider myself the agency's, resident DJ, but I'm using ResearchRabbit really as an intellectual DJ to help blend and kind of mold different disciplines to help us find things that we may have never considered, So
I love, that's another analogy. I love the DJ, intermixing and the DJ, and then what you said too about it being a workshopping mechanism or tool. That's like one, I think, a really good way to look at it. John Eric, have you encountered any challenges or unexpected benefits in collaborating with AI during the creative development phase? And give us an example if you have.
I think, creative development is often nonlinear, right? Like, I think all creatives can sort of relate to the fact that sometimes we don't have any idea how we're going to solve this, and it kind of culminates, and it's usually driven by panic and, oh my God, I'm not going to figure this out. Or sometimes a bad idea morphs into the best idea. And that nonlinear process, interestingly enough, there's sort of an alignment with the way that some of the AI generative tools solve. It's not perfect. Sometimes those imperfections and those mistakes are kind of convenient. So it does a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of almost having another kind of mind in the room that's going to arrive at a destination that maybe we hadn't planned. And I've actually found it quite compatible versus conflicting in that aspect, right? Ask me to do anything in Excel and, I'm going to flip my chair. But strangely, these tools really, and I think it may be because of the deep learning models and the sort of neural networking structure of it, are very similar to the way that we kind of creatively problem solve. So it's actually quite the seamless transition to use those tools. I think the challenges arrive when you have an expectation for that tool to maybe perform in the wrong sport. So if you try and take AI and suddenly have it activate on the show floor perfectly, those little mistakes that are very convenient in the creative room are not so great on a show floor. The second thing I would say is be really careful what you measure. So AI arrives into the experiential conversation, and all of a sudden we have all these fantastic new metrics and data that we start to measure, but if your measurement starts to become your target, it's no longer a good measurement. So what I mean is, if all of a sudden, as you mentioned, we want to kind of honor and create emotional, resonant human experiences, and one of the ways that we're going to measure that success is by getting email leads, and then all of a sudden getting the email leads becomes the target, and before you know, we're trading Starbucks cards for emails. You see what I'm saying? So AI can, if not put in the right lane, really hyper accelerate that and we become too focused on whatever that data and that measurement of success is. So we really have to, as I said, keep these in the lanes and understand that there are an enormous amount of factors that come together to constitute that rich human experience and not get carried away with our measurements.
It's almost like, don't tell me what I already know. Don't affirm what we already think we know. Use it to uncover what we might not know. Like, what's the, right?
Yeah,
like, what are we not uncovering?
Every one of us goes home at night, turns on Netflix. We have 200 relevant films presented to us, and I turn to my wife, I'm like, there's nothing on, right? So you're right. It's not going to suddenly solve it and fix it, and every single night we're like, this is exactly what I wanted to watch. That little moment in between, what I like to say 0 and 1, the kind of in between the binary aspects of this and that human nature of the possibilities of the unexpected, we really need to honor that and support it and recognize, I would say, that that's the sort of magic human ingredient here that we want to make sure exists in our experiences.
Yep. Margaret, I want to turn to you. How can AI improve the way we measure and evaluate the success of experiential marketing? We kind of touched upon this just a second ago, but what unique insights or opportunities could it uncover in the process? So we just talked a little bit about sort of the stuff that's under the stone. What are we not, right? From your perspective, what are you talking about with clients and that?
So I think, as we know, as event marketers, measurement is something that's historically been a challenge in this space compared to some disciplines like digital or sales. So really our job is to find a way to demonstrate impact, and AI is able to help us do that in a more holistic way. I'd say there are 3 areas that I am most excited about and encouraged by that I'm seeing, and that would be silos, speed, and sentiment. So by silos, I mean we often have this data, whether it's content engagement or badge scans, or booth traffic and Bluetooth tracking. But these data sets don't always connect, or they don't always talk to each other. So AI is able to bring these together so that we can understand how they're affecting each other. From a speed perspective, everyone wants things faster, and AI is a great addition to your toolkit to analyze, and can also provide information in real time. So you're on the floor and you're able to look at a dashboard and see how people are moving around or what they're doing. And then sentiment, I think, is one of the most powerful parts of AI, is that ultimately the value of an experience is the emotional impact, and that isn't always a metric that we've had access to. So its ability to read body language and facial expressions is unlocking this metric that is so powerful that can really demonstrate the impact that we're having on a business and a human level.
Yeah. Kyrie, what's one bold prediction you have about the future of AI in experiential marketing? How do you see it evolving in the next 5 to 10 years? This is my favorite question.
Yeah,
I'm
it's a
throwing a crystal
loaded
ball
one.
at you, and you've got to dribble. So let's see.
Yeah, it's a loaded one. I definitely imagine a future where we have adaptive experiences and also adaptive content. Now, before we go too far down that, like, there's so much that we have to consider in terms of ethics, consent. We were just talking about this walking the floor right now and how our information is even being used. But I think we will be in a place where the space can quite literally read the room. As we enter a space, they can recognize individuals or even collective clusters of groups. This could be something as simple. It's hard to say simple because it's probably much more complex, but imagine an individual walking into a space, the content starts adjusting to them based on some of the silos that you mentioned, different sources of information that we might have on them, but also even groups coming in and being able to recognize, hey, this audience is more creative, so we need to change the way that this message is being articulated. Hey, this is a group of decision makers versus influencers, right? And I think that could be something very powerful in having that content real time, adapt live. Now, another prediction to make that happen is kind of what Margaret was talking about. Right now, information is just in silos. So I definitely predict more partnerships, strategic acquisitions, because right now we're all using AI, but it's a little bit of gatekeeping, what tool we're using or exactly how we're using it. And I see us moving more towards a community approach where the future of this is really not about the tool that has the best capability, but it's about who's able to orchestrate or assemble the right partners to deliver best-in-class experiences.
That's great. Love that. All right, so we have time for one more, and I'm going to let each of you, I'm going to ask each of you to end with some advice for brands looking to adopt AI in experiential. What's your top piece of advice to stay ahead of the curve while avoiding common pitfalls? Who'd like to take it first? John Eric?
Sure. I think a great thing to keep in mind, if you were to ask Benjamin Franklin what he thought the future of electricity was going to be, he probably would not have said satellites rotating the Earth, providing GPS coordinates to self-driving vehicles, right? And no one understood electricity more than Benjamin Franklin at that time. So the moral of that story is to really say, no one really knows, right? The impact that this will have will be significant, and it will happen quite quickly. So my recommendation would be, don't write any of your ideas around it or your thoughts around it in stone just yet. Be agile, be flexible, be prepared to change your mind and your ideas about it. And I think that's going to be approached not only experientially, but just for all of us in terms of understanding this impact it will have in relationship to authentic, rich human experiences. And the reason why I say that is because, in the words of Kevin Kelly, the value of experience is rising. And so that's good news for us, right? Maybe not so good news if you were a data analyst for finance, might be a little bit concerned. But in terms of the folks that are living in rich human experiences, this is a finite framework. We have 24 hours a day. If you sleep 8, that gives you 16 to interact, and you don't get to keep those. You get them every day, they refresh, and so experiences and the value of those experiences is incrementally and tremendously rising against the rise of technology and the immense amount of screens that we see. So that's one thing, is we're in a good spot. My last piece of advice would be that with the rise of information, with the rise of artificial intelligence, every morning I wake up, and likely yourselves, the first thing I do is delete 20 emails I didn't want to read, right? So I don't necessarily trust interactions on screens as much as I used to. AI, I may not even know if I'm talking to a person. So relationship building and the value of trust has once again shifted heavily in the favor of face-to-face interactions. And the value of better understanding partnerships and building those relationships has shifted heavily toward face-to-face. And this gives us a really rich opportunity to exploit that, but also protect it and really encourage it. And I think what you're going to start to see is experiential programs and events that are once again really, really focused on people. Less on products, less about cramming our shelves, but really focusing on the human beings and understanding how we can take this opportunity to lean into these kind of beautiful, timeless human opportunities to build trust, to better understand each other, to better understand brands, to better build our partnerships. And so in some senses, we're in a really good spot. And I think that this should be favorable for us.
I like that perspective. Margaret, how about you?
I'd say my piece of advice is more from a mindset perspective, and it would be, don't be scared, be curious. I think with any new technology, there's often a lot of fear or skepticism around the implications on what it could mean for everyone, for any industry. But to be afraid of AI is to be left behind. So at Czar, we are united by this philosophy of we wonder, and that's because curiosity is really the engine that drives change. If you stick to the status quo, there will be no progress. One trick that I tell people to make AI feel a little bit more approachable, a little less scary, is to think of it as an intern. It is eager, it is highly capable, but you need to spend time with it. You need to be specific about what it needs to do, and you need to provide the proper oversight. But if you can do those things, it can really enhance and elevate your work. There's a tool out there that is developed specifically for creative agencies called Springboards, and I love their value proposition. It's that they can use AI to keep humans at the heart of the creative process. And I think with the right mindset, with the right tools, we can absolutely accomplish that.
Kyrie?
You know, I would say to use AI to do the deep work, and you have to be honest with yourself, right? There's work that we all probably want to do, but we might skip over it because of time constraints. And you really have to look at your workflows and think, where can this actually add the most value? Like, what are you actually passionate about? And experiential, like, we are the stewards of human experience. We get to do really cool stuff. You know, we all had something that got us into this industry. So use AI to kind of go that one strategic layer deeper and then get clarity on why you're using the tool. I'm constantly asking myself, am I using AI to deepen my output, or am I just using it to accelerate my output? And that's just something to constantly remind yourself, because you need to share that with your teams. And also transparency, whether it's with clients or also just with your teams, like share what you're using and how you're using it. I don't know how many times Margaret and I have just shared, hey, I'm using this new tool. I was able to do this really quick, but that helps you build a culture around AI, and ultimately is going to get us where we all want to be.
What a great conversation. Perfect time of the year to have it. Perfect place to have it, of course. I want to thank John Eric, Margaret, and Kyrie for their time today. You can learn more about Zarnowski Collective at zarnowskicollective.com. We'll let them get back to activating for all their clients here at CES, and we'll let you all get back to your day. And remember to check eventmarketer.com for full coverage of all the best experiences here at the show. And look out each day for our daily inbox briefings of everything we're seeing at CES. Take care. Thank you, everybody.